the tsunami-like effect of storm surges, landslide, could be flooding, of course.
Of course, that is brought about by
avalanches, of course. We are talking of
soil erosion,
Ormoc of some years back.
Ormoc of many years back, and Real and Infanta in 2004
Yes.
December, and Dingalan in Aurora as well.
And you are right, Your Honor, and that's why in the next budget cycle, I think we need to examine the capability development of our Pag-asa, e-Volks.
Yes.
It's good that we have the Manila Observatory, which is a private entity that is helping out. As a matter of fact, it is Manila Observatory that produced the mapping of the risks and vulnerability maps that can be used by our policymakers to determine, for example, in the determination of vulnerable areas, we put together the factor of risk factor and the exposure factor, which means risk plus people would render an area vulnerable insofar as disaster is concerned. So, Your Honor, if this be the case, what would probably be the responses of us, policymakers of this country? What would be our response to
I am glad that you asked that, Mr. President, because presently there is no government agency that is addressing this issue, Mr. President. There is an ad hoc interagency committee of the Department of Energy along with the cabinet members, but just like any ad hoc interagency committee where cabinet members are members, I don't know how often they have convened or even met. What is important is that we institute and enact by law a National Commission on Climate Change, which is being supported by the academe, by the NGOs, just like we have a National Commission on Culture and Arts, which I am also supporting. Just like we have national commissions, we must have a National Commission on Climate Change. That will be a product of bicameral legislation, and I believe that this will really set the pace for a national policy framework on climate change. You asked that, and that is just one of the many measures. But we can always do policy. But as they say, all politics is local. And I also believe all environmental policies is local. Even if we have a national commission, even if we enact the best environmental policies, if locally, in LGU levels, provincial level, we do not implement environmental laws, we degrade the environment like this was our last day on the planet, then nothing will happen. So really, there are measures that must be undertaken on the national level, in the LGU level. But in my mind, to my mind now, the most urgent matter that we could do is to enact this very important measure.
Your Honor, in the discussion during the hearings, I focused on asking the questions on developing our capability to raise the warnings.
Yes, Mr. President. By funding Pag-asa.
Against all types of natural disasters. It is difficult, if not at all impossible, to predict earthquakes. We can, to a certain degree, predict volcanic eruptions because there are indicators like the bulging of the slope of the volcano or the steam coming out of the cracks, etc., and maybe a little preliminary earthquakes before an eruption. But climate change disaster can be predicted because
and prevented.
Yeah, no, not prevention.
I mean, if we improve on our environmental.
Yes, yeah. Well, meaning mitigation. Like if we are able to determine the risk areas, like we would like to prevent flooding, maybe
we don't allow
dikes, replanting or reforestation could be such response to prevent. If the product of this presentation, Your Honor, Mr. President, is the creation of that commission, I will support such creation of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. And that commission is also supposed to do the National Policy Framework Plan on Climate Change. It will also mainstream climate change programs of national government agencies and LGU so that all the efforts will be coordinated. What we have now are conferences. There's the Albay Declaration on Climate Change. I'm glad that there is an LGU.
Yes.
There are little NGOs here and there to do their own thing, but we must have a coordinated effort, and only the creation of such a national commission would be able to do that.
And there is one thing that in the National Disaster Control Center, I was looking at the structure of this, and I noticed the absence of the presence of PVORPs and Pag-asa.
They are not
They're not members.
of the commission of the ad hoc.
NDCC.
International
Yes.
Disaster Crate.
And of course, the OST is there, but I would prefer that specifically PVORPs
And
and
Pag-asa.
Pag-asa be represented as members
And
of
even
that.
the observatory, Manila Observatory.
Yes. Now, therefore, if this commission is going to be formed, I don't know if this is going to be congressional commission or is this a commission?
No, Mr. President, this will outlive us. This will be a national commission on climate
Okay,
change.
okay.
Another suggestion is a representation which is pending in the Committee on Rules is the creation of a Senate Oversight Committee on Climate Change, which will just oversee the climate change legislation in this chamber. But the bigger picture is the creation of the National Commission on Climate Change, which will discuss, or which will address all the issues that you and I have been talking about for the past 30 minutes.
Of course, even the global community of scientists on climate change differ in position. Like, for example, some people are already questioning the